guys, this is Johnny, and welcome to the episode. Today we have a very special guest, Ian Robinson from loveaffairtravel.com.
Yeah, in the house. What's happening, Johnny?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm just stoked to, wake up in the morning and talk to somebody in Thailand. We're so fortunate to live in a world like this. So, I'm just stoked.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. It's 10 p.m. here in Chiang Mai. And where are you right now, Ian?
I'm actually in Reno, Nevada, up near Lake Tahoe.
Okay, cool. What are you doing out there?
I am riding horses and building my business. Okay. Sort of baselining from out here. It's inexpensive to live here, and it's beautiful right now this time of year. And I got a lot of cool people in my life that live in this area, so great place to be right now.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. And, I actually just got back from about 3 months in the U.S. doing the same thing. And I was very, very productive in the U.S., especially because I was on the same local time as all my dealers and all my customers. So it's definitely a good idea to do that sometimes.
Absolutely. I was trying to run my business with my clients in Los Angeles and New York, and I was doing it from Australia. So I was constantly up at like 2 a.m. It is so nice to be on the same area code, on the same time zone.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have any future travel plans?
Yes, I'm going to go back to Australia in February, and then I kind of bounce between here and Los Angeles while I'm in town, while I'm in the U.S., and then it's looking like Brazil, or I really want to baseline out of Romania for a bit of next year.
Oh, that's cool, man. I actually never heard of anyone really mention anything about Romania, but what is it about there that you like, or you potentially want to go?
Romania is, I want to go because Colin Wright and Wandering Earl both told me that it's a great place to work from. It's inexpensive, and I'm captivated with like the Eastern European like worldview. I read a book. There's a really epic book called "The Unbearable Lightness of Being" by Milan Kundera. And if you read that book, it just made me want to go and see Eastern Europe more and more. So yeah, to Prague, Romania. I just want to travel around there. I've never made it out there. The farthest east I've ever been was Switzerland. So
technically, I've been to Ireland, Scotland, and London, but to me, I don't really consider that Europe. So this summer, I'm going to head over to Budapest, and I'm going to spend the summer out there.
Awesome. Oh, beautiful. See, I love it. I love talking about places. I've traveled so much, and I've lived on every continent except for Antarctica for more than 3 months, and I still find that there's huge like spaces that I still don't even understand. So I love it.
Yeah, what's crazy is, as much as I think, I've been to all the places that I wanted to go, or at least I have it on my radar. I'll talk to guys like you, and you'll tell me about Romania, and I never would even thought of that. But now that you have, I'm like, all right, well, maybe I'll research it. I know one thing that I do a lot is anytime someone tells me something, I'll keep it in mind. If a second person tells me about it, I'll look into it. And if a third person, especially someone I trust their opinion on, if the third person tells me to read a book or go somewhere or do something or eat something, I'll just do it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's the most important thing too, and that's like what you just said at the end there is that you'll go do it. Like that is so key. Like because anybody, especially anybody who has the capacity to listen to this podcast, has the capacity to do anything really quickly. Like 100% is possible 100% of the time, and like because you take that action, it's probably the reason that you're living the sort of lifestyle that you are right now.
Yeah, definitely. And the crazy thing about that is, it's really good to do your research, to do, analyze competition, analyze, business opportunities. But at the same time, it's much better to actually do something than to just spend all day analyzing.
Absolutely.
And I was the same way with my e-commerce business. I'm the same way with this podcast. I'm the same way with my blogs. Part of it is I get lucky sometimes where I hop into a niche that happens to work out. And part of it, is the hard work or the value I bring to it. But a lot of it is just the fact that I take action early instead of just, wandering and trying to figure out, hey, what's the easiest thing to get into?
Absolutely. And then you can analyze for days, but I would say analyzing has its value and analytics and that kind of thing. But at the same time, you learn so much more in that first month of solving your first screw up problems than you do analyzing in ages. So yeah, there's so much to that.
So speaking of first, what was your first trip, really outside of the U.S. that you could
So yeah, go ahead. Because I started traveling, I started leaving the country all the time when I was a young kid with my family.
Yeah, I was going to mention on your own dime for your own reasons and not a family trip.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I went down to Costa Rica. My friend was staying on a permaculture farm down like way deep in the jungle of Costa Rica.
Okay,
There's
nice.
a place called Punta Mona. And that was one of the times that I just like really fell in love with it. That was on my own dime, but that was back in the day when I was doing it as like I would go home, I'd work a lot and save money, and then I would get out, fly down to Costa Rica, and then I would just spend money for a month, and then I flew back to Reno, flew back there, and then just started working again. So I would always work a lot and save all my money for traveling, but I didn't start travel working until I left for New Zealand. I left in like 2009.
Okay.
Like December of 2009.
So what was the way that you made money when you were doing that in New Zealand?
Well, okay, so I flew to New Zealand, and then I spent like a month checking out like permaculture farms in New Zealand, and then I flew to Australia, and I had a working holiday visa in Australia, and that is an excellent way to get started because Australia is a fantastic country. Americans can get working holiday visas in Australia, and it takes like 2 days, and it costs like $100 or $200. It's like nothing. It's an electronic visa. You don't even have to do any paperwork. It's the easiest visa in the world to get if you're under 30. And then when you land in Australia, you can get jobs like minimum wage in Australia is like $18. So the first thing I started doing was I did some like dish washing duties, but I was always interested in agriculture and where food came from. So I got a job picking fruit like out in a town called Stanthorpe, which is like up in the mountains near kind of the Brisbane Gold Coast area.
Okay, nice.
And picking apples is like really hard work, but I was making like I started off at about $700 a week, and then I was making like about $1,000 a week towards the end of it. And I was able to save up enough money in like 2.5 months that I was able to go to Cape Town, South Africa, because I had an internship with the World Cup. Oh, so cool. I got a round trip ticket on fruit picking money from like traveling, and the lifestyle of like the fruit picking is really cool because there's so many other like travelers, and I would eat Indian food with the Indians one night, and then I'd eat like, you know, there's some Swedish friends that I had and a lot of French people, a lot of Germans. And so it was really an interesting integrated work experience. And then also I got to spend a lot of time with, you know, real like country Australian people, which was really integrating into the culture.
You know, I'm glad you bring that point up because a lot of people think, you know, why would I want to work for any amount of money, you know, doing manual labor, picking fruit, or doing a job that I wouldn't do back in the US. But a lot of people don't realize that it's, you know, it's that lifestyle behind it and the people you meet and not the actual duties itself.
It was all an adventure too, John. I mean, like so when I got back from South Africa, I went out and I got a job at a cattle station. So I could have got a job like up in Wyoming doing cattle work, but out in Australia, I was out like, it was like a 2-day drive from Cairns. It was like an hour-long drive south of Mount Isa. And if anybody looks at a map of Australia, Mount Isa is just like way out in the middle of nowhere. Like, and that was just the most adventurous job I've ever had. Like I was making like 500, like a little bit more than $500 a week, but I had no expenses. So I was saving it all. And, you know, we were riding horses and moving cattle across the outback, and they use helicopters to bring them in because it's too big for the motorcycles. So we had like a team of 2 people on motorcycles, and then there were like 5 of us on horseback, and then there was like, you know, the cattle station manager who was just a complete stud flying around in the helicopter. The helicopter would land, drop him off, he'd jump on a motorcycle, catch up with us, and then like as we were getting done with the cattle stuff, that guy would just jump off the motorcycle and jump on a horse and use that as like the last run. So
that's
I mean, we're talking awesome, epic adventure stuff out there. And you know, we had there were like Aboriginals that we would meet out there, and I mean, it was the most integrated, awesome experience that, you know, I've ever had. I'm just so grateful for that. And I was saving money the whole time. I think I had like $2,000 I was $2,000 in debt when I got there, and then I was $2,000 positive when I left.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, by working at a place that where they pay for your accommodation, they pay for your food, and you basically have no expenses. No matter what the amount of money you make, all goes to your actual savings versus being at home. Let's say you're making $5,000 a month, you know, 2,000 of it goes to taxes, and then you have all your bills to pay, you know, and at the end of the month you have no savings. Versus even if you were making minimum wage, if everything else was taken care of, all that money goes straight into your bank account, which is awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And I had friends that were working like, you know, pretty decent kind of mid-level like jobs back in the States, and you know, I was putting away, saving money and spending money at a much quicker rate. And then I'm really grateful for that opportunity,
and even better,
I love the holiday visa one.
And you're even better is you're not accruing any more debt. All of my friends back in the U.S., they end up buying stuff, usually stuff that they don't really need, but because they're working, they're making money, and they start shopping, and they start getting a mortgage on houses, they start getting leases on more expensive cars, signing 2-year contracts on the new iPhone, and all that is debt that people don't really realize they have.
Yeah. So isn't that's the core of I think what it is. We're really redefining this sort of, I mean, like Tim Ferriss said, it was like the new rich, and I still kind of think of it that way. And we're redefining what it is to be wealthy, and I think that's really important for people to identify the things that are important for them. Yeah, and if the big screen, plasma monitor TV is really important to you, then that's fine too.
Well, one thing actually I noticed about the big screen TV, which is a little bit crazy, is I went to visit a friend in New York just a few months ago for his wedding, and I remember the last time I was there, I was very envious of his monitor. He had one of those big 24-inch Mac monitors that at the time was beautiful and was brand new, and he also had a 42-inch plasma or LCD TV that at the time was beautiful and brand new. This time when I went, just because technology has changed so much, all that stuff was old. I mean, it was like the old, it was kind of the old square models, and I looked at it thinking, man, you really need an upgrade. Because I'm so used to staying in, let's say, hotels or random places where I'm not actually buying any of this stuff. It's being upgraded on someone else's dime. And when I saw his stuff, I realized that's a few $1,000s kind of just down the drain. That it's an asset. It's not an asset. It's something that depreciates.
Right. You got to read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? I mean, I'm sure you probably have, but it's a liability, really. I mean, it's an expense.
Yeah, and people really don't think about that until because I guess it's just a part of normal life to upgrade and buy new stuff all the time. But it's crazy is in those 3 years where that TV was depreciating, I used that same amount of money to have all sorts of adventures in the world.
Yeah. When I hear somebody spend $1,000 on a TV, I think, wow, that's a month in Bali.
Yeah,
eating out 3 times a week. Staying on a cliffside thing and just having the most amazing adventures.
Exactly. But at the same time, for a long time, for the past maybe 4 years, I was a big advocate on living as cheaply as possible. Most of the places I lived, I paid $150 a month in rent, which is very possible here in Thailand. You can live in a decent place. Yeah. You can live in a hut on the beach. So location-wise, it was always fantastic. But it wasn't until a few months ago when I started meeting other entrepreneurs who were really killing it out here, really making good money doing e-commerce or doing the other online businesses, where I saw the apartments they were living in, and with rooftop pools and big king size beds. And at first I thought they were crazy. I thought they were just wasting their money. I really thought they were just throwing money away, thinking, why would you stay in a place that's $800 a month when you could stay in a place that's $150, relatively in the same neighborhood, that it gives you basically the same the same thing, where you get a room and you get a bathroom. But then I realized that I was kind of really lying to myself because I was limiting myself. And at the end of the day, $800 a month in rent in a place where you can get a place for $150 or $200 is a bit of a waste of money. But at the same time, if you were living back in the U.S., $800 a month for your rent would be nothing.
Right.
So the trick is really to make a U.S. wage while living in a place where that $800 can get you, a 4-star hotel, rooftop pool, and a furnished apartment.
Definitely, it's a geo arbitrage thing, right? You're making a U.S. salary in a place where it turns you into a really wealthy person. That's the geo arbitrage thing, and that's such an interesting thing too, because there's a big question on that. I was talking to Johnny Ward about that, and Johnny Ward's done really well. He was able to really overcome sort of the making low amounts of money. But now he says that he's got the really nice apartments and all this stuff, and he misses the days when he had to scrape by, because there's a lot of engaging stuff about living in sort of the lower income places and stuff. And it's Spartan, and it makes you work harder, makes you stronger, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And
way.
actually, one reason why it's not good to live in a really nice place is it actually takes away from your freedom. So this month I'm staying at a really nice hotel in Chiang Mai, and it's it's a place that I dreamed about staying, and I was never able to afford to stay in a place like this until very recently. So I was really excited.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I have a beautifully decorated hotel. I got a great swimming pool. I have it for a month, and then I had realized that all my good friends were in Cambodia right now. And if it wasn't for the fact that I just spent all this money in this hotel, I probably would have just went over and just hung out.
There you go. Yeah.
But it would have been a waste to leave this room empty, and spend the money on a plane ticket to go out there and not enjoy this room. So I've actually decided, what, unless it's a very a special occasion where I know I'm going to be somewhere for the full month, and I'm going to have friends over all the time, or I'm staying with a girl, I'm not going to spend that money on a really nice place for no reason, because it's really kind of a waste.
Yeah. It's like I love thinking about. I read a book called Anti-Fragile by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, and he describes everything as fragility, And when you pay for a place that you have to stay in, even if it's really nice, it doesn't matter. Even if it's bad, when you do that, you take on some fragility. If something changes in your life, if a big opportunity comes, then your life's a little bit more fragile. And so this is kind of a weird concept, but if you invest a lot of your time and energy into something, you become slightly fragile. That's one of the things that's so great about these internet businesses is that. You're anti-fragile. If you have to move to a different place, if your apartment goes up, you don't have to worry about it as much because you're not tied to a specific place, and your business is mobile. And I could drive to Florida tomorrow, and my business wouldn't even affect it. Most of my clients probably would have no idea.
Yeah, I just called a customer right before this actually, and it's probably 10 a.m. on the East Coast in the U.S. It's 10 p.m. here in Thailand. And she just assumed, no doubt in her mind, she assumed I'm in the U.S. somewhere. She doesn't realize I'm sitting here in my underwear at 10 p.m. in Thailand, giving her a call on Skype.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's even,
it's so cool.
Yeah, the other cool thing about it was I've been back in Chiang Mai for about 2 weeks now, and I've decided just not to pick up any customer calls just because the time zone difference was so crazy. So I've just had everything go to voicemail. I fulfill everything through email. So really, I haven't been touching the business at all, and it's still running. I'm still making, today I just made two sales, which more than enough paid for my, my nice hotel and all my living expenses. And
nice.
also,
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it freed up my time where I can work on other things like this podcast.
Yeah. That's the key too, huh? Because you can structure things in a way that it works for you rather than you working for the system.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm curious. So what are your actual businesses that you monetize? What allows you to have this freedom to travel and to enjoy life?
So I've got a podcast production company called Freedom Podcasting. And so my team and I take care of podcast production stuff. So you're producing a podcast right now, you can tell it's going to take you 4 hours to get this thing out, right? Recording's the easiest part. And so we take care of that for clients. People can just Dropbox us the files, and we just turn them we pretty much write people's blogs for them now because we really just take over the whole thing. Dropbox. And then publish. Yeah, it's a great thing. And then I also have a host of affiliate websites and sort of small little niche websites that are just trickle, AdSense money and affiliate sales.
Okay.
So that helps a little bit. But the podcast production business is the one that makes most of it.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm the same way where I have my primary business where I get most of my income, which is my e-commerce store. And then I have all these little side random projects where I just call it. Yeah, I don't even know what I call it. I would say beer money, but I don't drink anymore.
Good.
Yeah, but what's actually really crazy?
Yeah, that's another great tip for travelers. If you like to drink a lot, then traveling can be a pain in the butt. But that's one of the things that helped me about going to Australia. Is alcohol's so expensive there. A 6-pack of beer in Australia is $15, and I pretty much quit drinking there, and it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me because you spend so much money on alcohol, and then also you just waste tons of time. It was last night it was Sunday night last night, or the other day, Saturday night. Instead of going out and partying, I sit around and enjoy the work that I do, and that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah,
it really adds up over time.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it's a little bit hard to be social and not go out to bars and clubs to drink. So what I've been doing recently, which actually works out perfectly, is I'll hang out until about 11 p.m., sometimes midnight. I'll just have a soda, and when I'm tired and everyone's getting drunk, I just go home, and I get a good night. I get a good night's sleep. I wake up early on a Sunday, and I get to enjoy the entire day while everybody else is complaining about how hungover they feel. Yeah,
you go out, go do some workouts.
Yeah, and slowly,
that's great.
And slowly, I realized that by doing that, I meet as kind of a different crowd of people who are the ones that are actually awake on Sundays and want to do active things like hiking, want to go to the Super Bowl, want to do things that that I want to do that don't involve being hungover and slaying around.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's a big thing, like people need to focus on who they're being, if you and that's a tough question. Like that's a really tough one. Is like, who am I being like in this moment? Ask yourself that sometimes. Like right now, whoever's listening to this, they're being like the person who's listening to a business podcast about trying to travel the world. So that's important about who you're being. But if you're like waking up and you find yourself hungover a lot of the time, or like addicted to drugs or something, then that's who you're being, and that's going to be who you're going to invite people like that into your lives. So it's always a really good question to ask yourself and be honest with yourself about who you are in the moment.
Yeah, I've heard that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. And as far as income-wise, that's 100% true. I mean, I would have anybody listen to this, pause it right now, write down on a piece of paper, think about who are the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with, that you speak to most often, and what's their salary and what's your salary. And I bet the average of their 5 is going to be spot on with yours.
Right. Yeah.
So when I started surrounding myself with entrepreneurs who actually were successful, my income went up just tremendously versus when I was hanging out with backpackers that that didn't have any income. And
it goes for everything too. It's not just income, it's health too. Like if you think about all the people around you, like how healthy are they? Like, can they run a mile or that kind of thing? Like you see the similarities there too. Yeah. And then also with relationships, like how good are my friendships and how good is my relationship with my girlfriend or my wife or whatever. Like if you have a bunch of friends that are like, single or like, cheated on their girlfriend or something like that, then you're going to find that that's a similar thing too.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I mean, the one, kind of life hack that is super easy is if you want to have kind of those 4 core parts of your life be improved, join something like a CrossFit gym for a few months, and instantly, what you have there is, I mean, I was very reluctant to join one for a long time, and I still think there's pros and cons of each one, and there's better gyms, better coaches than others. So if you are going to join a CrossFit gym, do your research, make sure the coach is is legit, make sure you do all the proper form safely. But when it comes down to it, at a CrossFit gym, what are you surrounded with? Who are the 5 people you're surrounded with? Very type A people, both men and women. Obviously, they're pretty successful in whatever businesses they do because they're spending up to $250 a month on their membership. So you don't, you're not going to have people kind of scraping by, hating their jobs. You might have people who work a lot, workaholics, but either way, they're going to be successful in whatever they do if they can afford $250 a month for gym membership. Second, it's a very intense workout. So, everyone's going to be in really good shape. Most people, are very into their diets as well out there. Most people doing CrossFit probably doing a paleo type diet. And so basically your entire life kind of gets in order just by joining that tribe.
Yeah. Yeah. And CrossFit, almost all CrossFit gyms will do one free class when you go there the first time, or 3 days. Like, when I started CrossFit, I got a free month. Like, just go to them. And like, I wouldn't even recommend researching, because I went to like 6 CrossFit gyms in LA this last month. And, you just, that's the way to do it. Just check them all out. And then there's going to be one where it's like, wow, this guy's kind of like my best friend all of a sudden. And then you'll stick with it. Like, I was doing 6 CrossFit workouts a week. No, 5, pretty much 5 a week for like the last 6 months when I was in the Gold Coast. And it was just the coolest group of people. And they're just like my close friends. I send like my old CrossFit gym coach, like we were sending each other like love messages like, oh, I miss you, man. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, I definitely do agree that the best research you can do is your own research and just go to a bunch of different gyms. If you just go to one, you might not really, might not be sure if that's normal, if that's what you're supposed to get. But if you go to 3, 4, 5, or 6, even if you've never done any other research, you'll know which one is better. You'll know which ones, care about your form. You know which ones really, spend a lot of time to make sure you're doing it correctly. So that's a great idea, especially use those free trials.
Yeah, and you can go if you got 5 CrossFit gyms in your place, you can go for a month for free.
Yeah,
and then
true.
One of the things I gotta say about CrossFit that's just so great is that it's completely measurable. You write down how much you can lift. Like when I started doing CrossFit, I couldn't do a hang clean of 60 kgs, right? But right now I'm working on trying to to full snatch 80 kgs. I've become almost twice as strong as when I started. And it's measurable. I couldn't even pick up the bar that I'm trying to throw above my head now. And that is really that's results oriented behavior. And that's a really important thing with entrepreneurship as well.
Yeah, that notebook that they gave me during that first class, that is still with me. I still fill it out every time I do any kind of exercise. And it's great looking back and seeing the improvement. And I definitely agree with every single thing in your life, especially working out. But, even with business, even with, money, with whatever it is, if you track it, if you measure it, it improves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I really like that. And one other thing I wanted to say about CrossFit is I remember talking to my buddy Kurt, who's going to be back in Chiang Mai here in a few days. And hopefully I'll get him on the show next. But I remember saying to him once that I was disappointed that when I go back to the U.S., I'm not going to have access to my CrossFit gym here in Chiang Mai anymore. And he was really puzzled. He asked me, what do you mean? There's plenty of CrossFit gyms in L.A. And I said, well, it's so expensive out there. And it really is, especially if you pay for the drop-ins, it might be $20 on average, up to $25 per drop-in per month. It might be $250 a month. Versus in Chiang Mai, it's only $80 or it's $87 per month, which is much more affordable. But he shook me and he was like, hey, stop, he's like, stop thinking that way. If it's something that is good for you, don't say you can't afford it or that's too expensive. Just ask yourself, how can I afford this? How can I incorporate this into my life? And the answer was actually really simple when I thought about it. All I needed to do was make $250 more a month, and then it was basically free. Yeah. And by having that idea in my mind, I wrote it down as a goal. I said, and I think I had about 2 months before my scheduled trip was back to the U.S. So I just wrote it down as a goal. It was a pretty small, simple goal. I would like to make $250 more per month with my online businesses so I can do CrossFit. And because I wrote it down, because it's a goal, I made it, and it was great. Yeah.
And another cool thing is you can always go to the CrossFit places, and if you gut hustle, you can connect with the guy or the girl who's running the place and work out a deal. Be like, hey, I don't have the $250 coming in. I want to do CrossFit. Is there anything I can do? And maybe they'll be like, oh, well, and you can check out their website. And whenever you have something like that, I always recommend that you start with a gift. If you find that your CrossFit gym, if there's a CrossFit gym that has a crappy website, do up a mock website, a mobile responsive one. Be like, hey, look, I made you guys this kind of fake website. Could I just do this for 3 months? Then you got 3 months or something. Yeah. There's always tussles. You could do you could take out their trash and mop the floors. Just go there and try to do something. That's the number one thing. It's just start.
Yeah, definitely. And I did that for many number of years when I first started traveling and doing things. I was doing that with a lot of Muay Thai gyms where I had a Muay Thai blog.
Awesome.
I was making, highlight videos, and I would trade services, basically saying, hey, I'll make you guys a cool video for your website if I can train here. And it definitely works, and I definitely recommend that as a first step. But now actually as a second step, after you've kind of established that and you've already started building a real business where you're having income, I actually started recommending to get away from that and to start paying for things. And the reason I recommend that is I actually feel like I get more out of things that I pay for than when I get stuff for free. I don't know if you ever feel that way.
Yeah. Well, I feel a real strong connection with trading services for people, but I totally get what you're saying. And that's a really good point too.
Yeah. For me, for example, right now, I'm training at a Muay Thai gym, and because, I have a Muay Thai blog that gets, really organically just really good searches, there's a lot of gyms that want me to train at their gyms. They say, hey, come to my gym and you can train for free. And the reason why I've actually said no to a lot of it is for two reasons. One is I didn't want to, to kind of lose credibility with my readers, only recommending places, who are giving me free stuff. But second,
right.
There's a lot of those gyms that I didn't really want to go to. And I feel like I'd be wasting my time going somewhere just to save some money. I'd rather spend that same amount of time making more money and just paying for a gym that I actually want to go to.
Right.
As far as training services, I definitely think that for some people, they get more out of it because it's kind of like, it's kind of like a service exchange where you both get a lot out of it. And it's also a great way for people to get started with it. But then for people like me,
absolutely,
I get much more out of just paying for something. It's almost like if I downloaded someone's, training course on a subject and I bootlegged it for free, I normally don't, I kind of just skim through it. I don't really get anything out of it. But the day I actually pay for something, if I pay $300 for a training course, I will read that thing 3 times over.
Yeah, definitely.
So on the topic of starting businesses and making money online, not everybody can get into being a podcast editor right away. What are some
they could if they give me a call.
Really,
they can send me a message at ian@freedompodcasting.com and I can set them up with all the things that they need to start helping me out. So
oh really?
I've got like a system for bringing people on, and if anybody's listening to this and like they want to do it, I mean, you don't get paid right away, but you can get a bunch of work experience and you can learn a lot too. So if you send me an email at ian@freedompodcasting.com, I can help you become a podcast editor.
That's awesome.
My goal is to make podcasting world fantastic. My money making goals are pretty much. I mean, I pretty much already hit them. But the mission of Freedom Podcasting is to like make more people listen. Like make a more healthy space for listeners in the podcasting world. Like I want the podcasting world to take over all this like junk media. Like I listen to people like this morning. I was listening to somebody who was listening to like that NASDAQ stock ticker. Like the Dow Jones went down like 2%. And it's just like, oh gosh, I would just wish people were listening to like more life enriching stuff. And I know millions of people are, in my opinion, burning a ton of hours listening to things like that. Like the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it's like completely worthless knowledge. And like, so I'm up for helping people with podcasting in any way, especially if they produce really cool shows. And I got plenty of clients too, so we can work some stuff out.
Yeah, that's actually really cool, man. That's just a free internship job offer right there. So whoever's listening, that's really great. So if you guys are
need some work experience, too.
Jump on that. I believe in what you're saying as well. Where podcasting, even though I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I would assume a lot of my friends do. Really, it's actually a very small percentage of the world that even knows what a podcast is.
Yeah. Oh, when I was in Australia, people asked me what I did. I was like, oh, I produce podcasts. Some of these people would look at me like I just told them like I'm a spaceship driver or something. They're like, no idea what I'm talking about.
I mean, even guys at my co-working office space where they have online businesses, none of them are programmers or they do something technical. They have no idea. They've never actually listened to a podcast, and it's insane that even technical people still haven't jumped on board. But once you do, like anyone listening to this right now, I'm sure you have 10 other podcasts that you subscribe to, and you realize how great it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the market's growing too. There was a Time magazine article just like a month ago or something, and the market's been growing the whole time, and it's going to continue to do it.
Do you remember...
All the car companies are starting to put podcasting like directly into their computer software on board. I mean,
really?
It's going to be a very integrated system in the future.
Well, one thing that helped me a lot was when I first got an iPhone, which actually wasn't that long ago, but behind the technology.
What?
But
you're like a slow adopter?
I really am. I just got the brand new iPhone 4. And so the 4S is out, the 5 is out, the 5C is out, the 5S is out. So I'm about 4 generations behind. But to me, it's brand new. Oh. So it's perfect. I love it. Yeah. So, what helped me a lot was having that podcast app on my iPhone. That made things a million times easier to listen to.
Yeah.
And do you remember what the first podcast you ever listened to was?
Jeez, no, I can't remember the first one. I think, Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income was probably one of them.
Okay, nice. I still remember mine because actually wasn't that long ago, but it was the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
And
that show's awesome.
Yeah, what's crazy is because that was the only podcast I had subscribed to, I assumed all podcasts were 3 hours long.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the amazing thing about it too. Podcasting's so wide open. Like there's 10-minute shows. Like Brian Callen does a 10-minute podcast, which is great. I think it's called the 10-minute podcast. And then there's Dan Carlin does 5-hour podcasts that are fascinating all the way through. I mean, I've listened to I think it was Death Rows of the Republic by Dan Carlin. It's like an old history. He just talks about military history and like the lifestyles of people like back in the Roman Empire, and that will inspire you. Like those shows are fantastic.
Is that the same guy that does the Walk of Khan? Not the Walk of Khan, the Genghis Khan, Wrath of the Khan. Yeah. Those are fascinating. I'm actually listening to that a second time through now. Every time I'm on a plane, I listen to the Wrath of the Khans, and it's amazing.
Dude, I think about that one all the time. That Wrath of the Khans was probably one of my favorites. He just talks about the way the Khans were the most mobile and fast-moving military force until the invention of the internal combustion engine. Like they would just dominate the whole the world, and they were just so brutal. Like he does those little details, like how they used to, bleed. Like if they were really hungry, they would milk their horses, bleed them out a little bit and make a little blood milk concoction and drink that. And that's what Mongolian raiders were about, right?
Yeah,
they would just move across the steppes.
And it's one of those things where it's so much better as a podcast and listening to it in this detail and imagining, what they're saying. I mean, when they say, they're riding up on their horses to a mountain, a snow-covered mountain, and as they get closer, they realize it's not snow. They're scattered human bones all over the mountain. That gives me this imagery in my head that's even more powerful than if I saw it in the best CGI or on TV.
Yeah, and it gives you, and that's one of the greatest things is he talks about revisionist history. Like a lot of revisionist historians talk about how the Khans were really good for the area because they opened up trade routes, and it's yeah, that's true. But the reason they opened up trade routes is because they killed everybody on the path, and they probably weren't really thinking about opening up trade routes. They were probably just thinking about the fact that they're ready to go kill some more people. They weren't nice. They weren't open-minded people this and it's a perspective and a historical perspective thing. It's a really powerful thing to undertake, not only for understanding of history and being interested in interesting things, but also as an entrepreneurship. And I mean, it helps with these sorts of things too, because you see the world differently. When you hear people say things, you perceive it differently. And I think, I really think that Dan Carlin's show is good for that sort of perception of even everything, of the way that things are put forth and how you see them.
Yeah, I definitely recommend everybody listen to that show. So a little bit earlier on, you mentioned something about what was it? Was it affiliate marketing, or is it the ads that you did for your second source of revenue?
Yeah, affiliate. I do affiliate, and then just AdSense, Google AdSense, and then media.net's actually a good one now that I've been using lately.
Okay. So do you recommend for guys just getting into making money online to explore those channels? Or would you recommend?
Yeah, I do, totally. You can start a website, you could start making a website that has something that you're interested in and put Google AdSense up on there. And you want to get to that point, the hardest part is you got to drop the $15 for the domain, and you got to drop $6 a month, right? And when you're starting off, I know that those are intimidating costs, even though they're nothing. Once you get to a certain point, they're nothing. But as soon as you see that first, quarter or whatever drop into your account from doing that stuff, all of a sudden it becomes really, really liberating, and it gives you momentum. And once you get momentum, momentum pushes, it gets faster and faster and faster as it goes. But getting started with an AdSense account, you link it up to your bank account, and then 1 month, all of a sudden you notice there's an extra $100 in there. Feels fantastic, and that's a great way to start. And then you get an idea for content marketing, how to hook up analytics, all the little key things that you need to do on the way to making that good one single website. That starts right there. So totally recommend starting right there.
Yeah, I definitely agree where, that first sale or that first amount of money you make online, no matter how much it is or where it comes from, makes you believe, hey, this is actually possible.
Yeah.
I know for me, actually, the way I started.
I remember for me, the first time that I pulled money out of an ATM that had just come from setting up a website that I hadn't touched in a long time. And I pulled the money out of an ATM. I think it was in Australia. And I was just like, whoa, all right, this is real. And that's powerful.
Yeah, definitely. I know for me, I was too cheap to spend the $6 a month on hosting. So all my sites were actually made on Blogger, which is Google's free blogspot platform. I still have to still bought the domain, which is about $10 a year. But even though the sites don't look nearly as nice as like a WordPress site would look, that's basically a free alternative to get started as well. So I definitely recommend, either way that you're going to do it. Anyone that doesn't have a website up right now, find something that you're interested in and start blogging about it and put up AdSense or put up, recommend products that you believe in. I mean, one real super easy way is find, anytime you're going to recommend a book that people should read, just put the Amazon affiliate link on it. And you're not going to make a ton of money from it, but it converts super easy because everyone trusts Amazon to buy things. And it doesn't cost them any more money to buy it through your link than if they went straight to Amazon. And you get a credit for it.
And it's one tiny little fish hook in the sea, because that you're going to publish on that thing and it's going to be there for the next 10 years. And, even if it gives you 1 cent a year, you've got like 1 extra cent a year. And if you do that a few, 100,000 times, then you're fine.
Yeah. Well, what's actually really funny is, so this microphone that I'm doing this podcast on, I got it for free through Amazon. And the reason for that is, every time I go in to buy something, whether it be a Sudoku book for my dad, which he loves, or, something like this mic, I have all these Amazon credits just in my account from every time I put up a book link. And I only put up links to things that I would recommend anyways. So I'm not going to tell someone to read The 4 Hour Work Week if I thought it was a crappy book. But if I'm going to recommend it anyways, then I might as well, use my link for it. And, so the real cool thing is I logged in just actually the other day just because I was curious. And it's probably the first time in half a year I even logged into my Amazon account. I was just kind of curious, what people are buying. And what's really cool about Amazon or a lot of these affiliate sites that they track is if someone buys something else along, with that book that you recommended, or I think even within, 3 days or something, or within that week, you get credit for that as well. So just looking through, I get credit for random things like, these books that I'd never even heard of because they happen to buy it along with the 4 Hour Work Week when I recommended that. People bought, whey protein powder. They bought, skinny jeans or MP3 downloadable music, and I still get credit for that. And it's awesome.
Yeah, I checked my account the other day, and I mean, I don't do any exercise workout affiliate links or anything. There's somebody bought a $900 rowing machine, so I got $36, and I have no idea how that happened, but it's awesome. So
yeah, I'm taking a look right now. Someone bought a GoPro anti-fog inserts for the Hero 3 camera, which I've never talked about before. A Samsung Galaxy extended battery, a router. What else is there? I mean, just all these random things.
We should start a website about that, just like random affiliate links, because I got like leg warmers once. I don't know. I've never even recommended leg warmers. I've never even used them.
Okay, these are the most random things. So under pet supplies, CET poultry toothpaste.
What?
Yeah, I have no idea what that is. I don't know if it's...
All right, you win. That's the best one.
I don't know if it's toothpaste designed for, poultry like turkeys or chickens, or it's toothpaste made out of poultry. Either way...
There you go. There's an affiliate website idea right there. Poultrytoothpaste.com.
Yeah.
Be at the top search engine results in a minute.
And it's insane. I mean, I made 43 cents from that. And that just adds up. I mean, this is like literally one of 76 things that, were I didn't even talk about, I didn't even link to, and I still got credit for it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So, but as far as actually making money, it took me about 4 years for me to figure out, what I can actually replace my 9 to 5 income with. So I had all these random, sites where, like I'll recommend, like I have a book on Amazon called 12 Weeks in Thailand, and I make a little bit of money from that, but it's not, it's not my full-time income. I have, Muay Thai blog, which has AdSense on it, so let's say you go to it and you're reading about Muay Thai in Thailand where you should train. And then there's an ad for a Goda where you can book a hotel. I'll make some money from that if you book a hotel through them. But none of those were, really enough to actually replace my income. And it wasn't until, I built my actual e-commerce stores where that actually completely replaced a normal 9 to 5 income. And then for you have your podcast services. So do you believe that these, random, the blogs, the affiliate sites are more just for, for getting people started, for them to kind of have a diversified income and more, if anything, just experience and training, making money online, and that people should find what, something that they really want to dedicate to?
Yeah, totally. I don't think I would have got to the point and being as good you need to be a good web developer to be able to run a podcast service company. And if I had never set up all these websites, I would have never been able to get to the point where I'm at now.
Yeah, definitely. So, I definitely recommend that if you guys are just getting started, make a website, really about anything. It could be about, about poultry toothpaste, and
make it about something that you like though. Make it about, because that's one of the things, like if you write about poultry toothpaste and you've never even seen a chicken, you're not going to be any good at writing about it, and you're never going to be able to create content. But like, make it about something you like and something that you're good at. Everybody's good at something. Yeah. And like, whether it's gardening or friggin' skydiving, you're going to be good at something.
Yeah, and I definitely agree.
If you write about it, people will resonate with it, and there's going to be options there. And just start writing, watch analytics, see what people like, and it starts working out. Make it a habit too, and make it so it's fun. Because if you're like, people always talk about doing stuff that has like results and stuff, but if you're not having fun with this stuff, then you're going at it from the wrong perspective. Like what we're doing now is we're living in an economy of like an abundance economy where you can just do whatever it is that makes you interested. Like I love podcasts, so I started just learning about the production of them. Once I figured out production, I met people that didn't have the time to do the production, but they wanted to have podcasts, and then bam, that's an excellent business thing. And then when I'm doing my podcast production, like I don't do as many of them as I used to, which is kind of sad because now we've just got too much, but I always want to listen to the show. So while I'm working, it's like playing video games. It's awesome. It's so fun.
Yeah, I definitely think that's cool. Ian, dude, it's been awesome having you on the show. Before I let you go, there's been something I've been asking a lot of my guests, and I kind of put you on the spot for it. But what are 3 tips that you can give the listeners? And they don't necessarily have to do with travel or building a business. They can be really about anything, but just kind of 3 actionable items that people can start doing that can kind of just make their life a little bit better, that has made your life better.
Okay, cool. 3. So number 1 is don't do stuff that you hate. Like if you have a job that sucks, find out how to stop doing it. Like do things that you enjoy. The world's a better place when there's people that are doing things that they enjoy. Number 2 is get started immediately and always take action things. Like don't put stuff on your to-do list when you could just do it. Do things when they come to your mind, make it happen. And then let's see, what's another 3rd one? Those 2 are pretty solid.
Yeah, definitely good.
Number 3 is invest in your education. You can get free audiobooks, you can get all sorts of interesting stuff. Start listening to audiobooks and running, listen to podcasts of people that are interested in the things that you're doing. Like really invest in your education and make a system, like do a website like where you can send out emails to everybody about the books that you're reading at the time and talk with people about the stuff that you're learning, because investing in yourself is the most important thing, and it'll pay hugely in the future.
Dude, really, really good advice. So if someone wants to find you and keep in touch, what's the best way?
The best way to get in touch with me is to email me. Yeah, email. You can email me at ian@freedomcasting. You can check out the Love Affair Travel podcast. That's where I talk to people about all this stuff. And I've got endless amounts of fascinating people on my shows. There's like 36, and I've already recorded up to like 40. So head to loveaffairtravel.com. You can email me at ian@loveaffairtravel.com. There's an email mailing list. I put together like a 15-minute audiobook that's for free at loveaffairtravel.com. Head over there, sign up. Independent Ian at Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So anybody, just get in touch with me. I love talking to people about this stuff. So
nice,
I look forward to hearing.
All over the internet. Do you have a GeoCities or a MySpace we can find you at?
MySpace. I don't even looked into that. I heard Justin Timberlake bought MySpace, so
yeah, I'm sure that was a great buy for him. All right, but Ian, thanks so much for having being on our show, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, awesome, Johnny. I really appreciate you doing this. So thanks for making it happen. It's great to be on a show with another Canadian entrepreneur. So thank you. Yeah, we're always looking for help with interns. So if anybody out there wants to, start making podcasts and start making things that are interesting, we've got a free internship program. All they have to do is email me like a 30-second mix of their voice, and then mix it together with some music and maybe some slams or something like that. Under 30 seconds, email it to ian@freedompodcasting.com, and we can get them started right away on doing a free internship that could totally turn into a paid opportunity for the right person.
Thank you for listening to the Travel Like a Boss podcast. If you want to hear more, including the bonus How to Choose the Perfect Niche episode, join our mailing list at travellikeabosspodcast.com. See you next week, and remember, if you want to travel like a boss, you need to be your own boss. So start your online business today and start living the lifestyle you've always dreamed of.